Welcome, folks. Welcome to Winning on Wednesday. My name is Juan Vitas, and I'm the founder of Winning on Wednesday. Winning on Wednesday is a virtual platform that meets every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the purpose is to build meaningful relationships and expand your network and promote your brand. As I always say, people do business who they know, like, and trust. And knowing, liking, and trusting, I'd like to introduce my friend, Mike Deluise. Mike, how are you? Can you hear
Really
me?
doing well.
Good,
Yeah,
good. Can you quickly introduce yourself?
well, I'm a ex-Brooklynite who spent most of his life on Long Island and then decided to move out to Oregon, which I did maybe about 10 years ago. Uh, Started with a dream of being a Catholic priest, tried the seminary for a few years, and then decided I wanted to have a little bit more fun in my life. I started a career when I was about 19 years old in Broadway theater, not on stage, marketing, and was very involved with some really fun Broadway shows, everything from Hair to Hello Dolly to Jesus Christ Superstar. I did the TV advertising for the original Annie and a little mime group called Moominshans, and it went on and on. And then a few years later, after working for a company on Broadway, I started my own business and opened an office in Washington, Los Angeles, Boston, and had one in New York on Fifth Avenue, and continue that. Decided that maybe I could take marketing a little further and came up with an idea to computerize ticketing for live performances. And my partner and I designed the automated box office system for the Shubert organization, which they still use today. And in a lot of ways, revolutionized uh, theater going and actually made it a multi-billion-dollar industry. Technology added to what they had there. Uh, Somewhere after that, I decided again I needed to do something more in life and began a career in higher education, which I did until I was forced to retire because I had some vision problems. And then in retirement, I created the Melville Chamber of Commerce,
Wow.
and which is running now. Uh, Left that, as I said, about 10 years ago and came out to Eugene, Oregon. And we're talking about branding. I would rather right now in my life brand other people, let them look at what I think I've accomplished. And I really enjoy doing it.
No, you're a legend. Everybody knows you, and it's amazing that you still, you live in Oregon and people still contact you. That's truly amazing. It tells you how you made an impact on Long Island that they you can't get away. They always try to pull you back in. But that's truly amazing that the people do that. Um so tell us a little bit about, you said you were you wanted to become a Catholic priest though. Did that before that, did you, when you were like little, did you have any ideas of like because like when I was little I wanted to become like a vegetarian, and like a doctor or something like that, and then your mind changes. So did you always have something said, or what did you change your mind when you were younger, different careers? I mean, besides, I know being a Catholic priest, but other things that you have in mind before that?
Sometimes what you dream about is not real when you finally taste it. And when I was very young, I decided that I wanted to do something for the betterment of the world. And I thought being a priest would dedicate my life to helping other people. I was in the seminary back years ago when the Catholic Church was going through what they call the Vatican Council, where you would question. And we were kind of supported by the church to question what was going on. And as I questioned it, I just felt that they could do things a little bit different, that there were some flaws in the system that just I was not capable of changing. And when I looked at it for a few years, I said, this is really not where I could best serve the world.
Mhm.
And decided to change it, careers. While I was in college, I majored in psychology, and I thought I'd be a clinical psychologist. and I really liked working with people. It was part of the seminarian who still kept with me. And somehow I decided one day to do something that would be fun for myself and took what I thought would be a very temporary job working in a company that did the advertising for Broadway Theater.
Wow.
Well, it was amazing. And I realized I could use my psychology training, I could
Yeah.
use my people and really make a difference. And it was a very rewarding, fun, hardworking career that began not so much by accident, but by piecing a lot of the things that I like to do together.
Now, I know that you have to have a lot of patience working in that industry because it's not an
Yeah.
easy industry. And I have my fair share of working people in that industry. That's why I kind of, don't work too much in that industry because you have to have a thick skin. You really do. It's a really, because there's a lot of things that go in fast and a lot of money. There's a lot of money that gets in productions, and whether it be a movie or play or theater, there's a lot of, at the end of it, it's a business, and it's a lot of money to invest in that. So, you know, and I, I
My,
can, I can, I can understand people's patience.
I found success in that business was realizing it was not about me. It was about my clients and the customers that they serve.
Hmm.
So sometimes I had to go into a client, some of them very famous people, where after a while I said, we can't work together because my understanding of how to make you reach your audience is different than yours, and we can't do it. More often than not, and I guess that was part of the talent I might have had, I was right and sometimes they were wrong. People who could have been great talents lost their opportunities because ego got in the way. Or what people tend to do is they tend to dream about what tomorrow is going to be, and they don't act on it.
Right.
And that's when I coach somebody or mentor someone, is you have to get off the chair and do it. If you make a
Yes.
mistake, you can do something else. But if you don't take action, it's not going to happen.
Yep. Action.
And people,
Yeah.
some people with less talent than others have become the superstars and the very, very successful people in all industries. And it has entertainment was a fun way to start, but it still works in education, it works in medicine, it works in every field that you can think of. Ego has to be put aside, and you have to do what's right.
Wow. Yeah, and that's in business. Any hobbies that you have or interests that you enjoy doing?
When I was involved with Broadway theater, I would have clients who needed photography, and I was working with all these talented people, people who've won Tony Awards and Oscars and produced multi-million-dollar movies, and they've written books that won Pulitzer Prizes. And what could I do? And they would ask me, hey, do you know someone who could take a photograph? So I learned how to do photography. And for
Wow.
me, that was a great hobby that put a little bit of revenue in my pocket. And I was excited about it. When I lost vision in one eye and my other eye became a problem, now I'm an old man and I still have my cameras. And I said, the camera can see what I can't see. And my hobby right now is taking photographs and putting it on my iMac and making it see what I couldn't see, editing it
Wow.
more than I take photographs. And I just love it. And it's my only way of even showing my doctors, this is what it looks like to me. And this is what I wish I could look like. So my hobby right now, more than anything else, is photography, but I'd say primarily editing photos.
That's truly amazing. That's one. Wow. Oh, wow. It's a very inspirational story, by the way. That's a very inspirational story. It gives, because, people, my dad has had like three eye surgeries, and he had two cornea rejections, so ultimately he lost the eye. I mean, he still sees it. It sees a little bit blurry, so he really lost one eye, but you know, um, it's truly amazing that you've taken that, your hobby, and made it into that, like you said, and put it on the computer and editing and seeing it. so that you could appreciate the view. That's truly amazing. Wow. Wow. And so your first job, so what was your first real job? Like your first like real job in the real world? Like was it the Broadway show, or did you have something before that? Because I know you went for psychology. Did you go right into the Broadway, or did you have a job in between, like out of
What I did
college?
is, I went to NYU and I lived
Okay.
in Brooklyn. I wasn't living on campus and I would take the subway to work. But in those days, tuition was a lot less than it is now, but it was
Oh
still a
yeah.
lot of money. So I worked three jobs. Like the jobs where I worked in a printing company, I drove a truck for a dry cleaner, and I worked in a research company that I thought would prepare me for psychology. But I was really tired. Getting through college, I got out in 3.5 years because I just needed to finish it. And when I needed a breather, I took what I thought would be a part-time job in my senior year of college working in an advertising agency that was on 44th Street off Broadway. And they gave me an opportunity that for a young guy who wasn't really sure what he wanted to do, it was exciting. I went for an interview for New York City to be a social worker, and I was very disappointed. It was, in those days, it wasn't a department that was really on the up and up. And part of the interview was showing you how you could work around the system to make more money. And I wasn't ready to sell my soul for something like that. And the agency that I was working with had an opportunity. The man who was handling the advertising for the New York Philharmonic was going to retire. And they asked me if I would like a full-time job doing that. I knew
Wow.
nothing about classical, and I ended up working in the advertising. It was my first client for the New York Philharmonic for 14 years. And we
Wow.
did some great things. I was a
Wow.
climate because the audience at the Philharmonic, this was before the new Lincoln Center was built. Uh, it was an old age group that every year they would lose people because they weren't around the next year. So the subscription base was going down, and we went after a younger audience. Uh, Lincoln Center today is very different than it was back in the 60s and the 70s. And if you look at the original movie of West Side Story, it was filmed in Hell's Kitchen. That is where Lincoln Center is now. Lincoln Center is one of the finest upscale neighborhoods in New York. It was the opposite in those days. So uh, it was a good learning experience to me. Then along the line, I was given the account of they opened the Garden State Art Center in New Jersey. And that was, for a young guy, the most phenomenal job in the world. I got to speak to uh, the Four Seasons. I got to speak to Colonel Parker, who was Elvis Presley's manager. I worked with Bette Midler, was Johnny Cash. And uh, it was just exciting, not only to go home and tell people who you were working with, but to get phone calls from those people and actually talk to them and help them and have them call back and say, that suggestion you gave me was great. And then, it was just exuberantly wonderful.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Um, you could appreciate classical music now?
Do. You know what, though? You get jaded because the New York Philharmonic, I still think, is the greatest orchestra in the world. And I knew nothing about it before. But maybe orchestras like the Chicago Symphony or the London Symphony are good. But you could be in another country, another city, and you're missing something. And there's a secret to orchestras like the Philharmonic. So yes, you appreciate it, but listening to a record or recording or streaming, you can tell the difference. But classical music is something I really do appreciate.
So at this moment, I like to call the golden moment time. And if is there any valuable piece of information that you like to share that can help somebody be a better business person or better their careers, or so if you have any information you want to share or give us some examples of that.
I met with a young man yesterday who was trying to start his career, and he's been spending a lot of time sending his resume out. You send out hundreds and hundreds, and maybe 1,000 resumes online, get no response. You need to deal with people directly. You need to take that dream you have, think it out, come up with a plan, and work on it. And I don't know anyone who hasn't gone after it by measuring the date, considering that your job, if you're looking for a career or a client, is to move ahead and get that job or get that client. And you need to work on it. Put a marketing plan together and follow it. If you sit around playing video games, you're not going to do it. Move, do something, and that's going to make all the difference. It's not up to somebody who's going to give you advice or live you a dream. They can kick you in the butt and say, go out and do it yourself. And realize that part of it is rejection, and that rejection makes you stronger. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And we need to, again, move forward with a plan, and things work out.
That 100% agree with that. And it does definitely take energy to work. You need that energy, that movement to work. To your point, you can't just sit there. You really have to execute. And the other thing also, I like to add what you just said. It's also consistency being, a lot of people give up. And it's just like you just said rejection, right? And I ran for public office, and I know what it is to, knock over 7,000 doors. And I know what is, rejecting. So you really have to have a thick skin. And I think over time, that thick skin helps you become, more stronger, more, I think, focused. Because sometimes, it's disheartening in the beginning. Rejection is not easy. It's not easy being rejected. I think rejection is one of the things people fear the most, being rejected. But after a while, you become numb to it, and submitting resumes, for example, you get rejected. But I remember when I first started my career. This is really interesting. I wanted to share this story. I got my diploma, computer programmer, in the 2000s, right? Couldn't find a job because I didn't have the experience, and it was a catch-22. I went to 100 interviews, nobody would hire me, and because they said I didn't have the experience. But I had the degree. I had a computer programming degree, and it was tough. And then finally, after over time and consistent, I found a job. But it's just got to be consistent at it. And the more important thing is networking. To your point, is who you. It's not what you know, is who you know. That's another important, because in my careers, I've gotten jobs through my network of people, and it's really simply took a phone call to find a job. You know.
I want to offer another piece of advice. I worked on a show called The Music Man, and The Music Man is a number in it where they say you need to know the territory if you're a salesperson. You need to know the customers. You need to know what you need to do to get the job and make that sale. And if you don't know it, it's going to make it very difficult to do it. So one time, somebody said to me, you should go work at J. Walter Thompson, the advertising agency. And I said, what do I need to do to get there? They said, well, I'll tell you a secret. They never hired account executives who are less than 6 feet tall. I'm maybe 5'11" or 5, as my knees get done, I get shorter and shorter. So on my resume, just to test them, I said, it's tough being 6 foot, but I'm really, let them know I was offered that job over the phone. And when I
Wow.
went to see them, I wasn't 6 foot tall. They assumed I was, and they didn't measure me. And that was one of the silly things that that's the type that they hire. You need to know that. And so you don't waste your time on it. And you need to know what people are going to buy. So many times a client would come to me and say, this is a Broadway show I'm working on, or this is a piece of music I'm working on, and I want you to sell it. And our research would say, that's not what people want to buy. or you have to sell it a different way. And their ego was, their dream was to do it their way. And those shows, those pieces of entertainment or products didn't work because they weren't willing to put their ego behind them and make their project successful.
I always say your ego is not your amigo. Um, Tell us about. Listen. You have an amazing resume with networking and creating the Chamber of Commerce or the Melville Chamber of Commerce. Um, what other networking groups? I mean, have you belonged to? And what do you currently belong to? Any groups? I know that you're retired, but I mean, or do you belong to any other communities or organizations or anything that of spheres of influence? Let's just put it that way.
Keep your brain going when you're an old man like me. You need to be busy. And I live in Eugene, Oregon, which is a great town. When I was coming out to Oregon, everybody said, "Oh, it's going to be so cold and windy." It's beautiful. The weather is great. In the 10 years I've been out here, we live in the city of Eugene, and we've maybe had a total of 3 inches of snow. But you can see the snow out my window. That way, when the leaves are gone, you're going to see a lot of snow on the mountain. I am very involved with transportation and environmental subjects in Eugene. I served a number of terms on the Active Transportation Committee, dealing with bicycles and uh, electric cars and vehicles and running tracks. Uh, I get very involved with homeless situations to help people. And what I found very rewarding is working with formerly incarcerated people. And to me, that's probably been the most rewarding thing in my life. Several of those people, due to just being thought of and cared for, have been drug and alcohol free for now over 5 years. To me, that is more important than helping somebody put a business budget. But I still get involved with corporate people, or CEO will call up and say, "What can I do?" And part of my career in marketing, I felt, was crisis management. And the best crisis is one that never happens. And you can keep problems away by taking those little problems away. And people get tempted. There's a lot of temptation out there. And corporate CEOs and CFOs tend to every once in a while see if they can cut corners or trick the government. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it at the end when you have to close your business, or maybe even hire a very expensive legal team, or even think about serving time in prison. You can solve those problems by just being very good and open in the beginning. Maybe it'll be a little bit slower before you succeed, but the success is much more rewarding. So those are the kind of things that I get myself involved with. And frankly, at this point in my life, I'm not worried about what I'm getting paid to do that. So if somebody needs help, I'm really happy to help them and let their dream come true. Mine already have. Not that I'm against working with a client, and if a client I feel is taking advantage, I'll tell them that. So I do stay very, very active. And thanks to Zoom, I can deal with a client in Dubai, and I can also deal with people in Pennsylvania, or I can take the bus to downtown Eugene and deal with the mayor. So it's just been really, really, technology helps, but being involved, no matter what way you do it, is very important.
Wow. Amazing journey, amazing story. Any future goals for 2024? Anything for this year?
To live through the year, I'd like to keep the diet right, and I'd like to help, a few people have their dreams come true. That's really what it's all about. A young woman who I've been working with for a few years, pushed her a little bit, She just signed a major, major contract and she's 24 years old. She's very happy about it, and I think that's great. Maybe she could have done it when she was 21 or 22, but she's really accomplishing some great, great things. To me, that's rewarding. And I don't care what I get out of it as long as people get something spectacular for themselves. It's a life dream, and it's a life dream that comes true, and tasting that reality. It's just so good. It's so much better than thinking about what could happen.
Wow. Mike, if people want to learn more about you, what's the best contact for you?
I'm suggesting that if people listening to this and they get in touch with you, you let me know. You know, if somebody wants to send me an email, my email is Deluise, Deluisem at mac.com. But have them talk to you because you can filter it. And, you know, maybe you think that some of these things I'd be too crazy to work on or whatever. But, you know, I tend to not say no. If somebody needs help, I'm happy to help them. And I don't need a full-time assignment. I don't need a part-time assignment. I need just to feel that I'm making a difference as long as I can.
Wow. Well, truly, Mike, it has been a pleasure with you, and I just have to say thank you so much for your information. You're a wealth of information, and your journey is amazing. Your story is amazing, and wow, thank you to stopping by today. And if for you folks out there, if you want to become a member of Winning on Wednesday, simply go to our website, winningonwednesday.com, and sign up for the first time guest. We'll see you next time.